Oh, hello everyone. So, welcome back to the channel. Devavardhan this side. Today, we will be diving into one of the most exciting part of AI and machine learning and deep learning, that is neural network. Okay, so now you might be thinking that, bro, this sounds something super complicated, but trust me, it's not. Okay, so let's start in simple language. A neural network in a machine learning model is loosely inspired by human brain. It made up of tiny computing unit cells called as neurons, and these neurons are together collected to forms a layer. Okay, now here's a cool part. By just strengthening, let me give you an analogy for it. Okay, imagine a water purification plant. You have raw dirty water going in. That's your input passing data. It passes through the multiple stages, multiple filters. These are your layers, and each filter remove impurity and extract the good water out. Okay, so you get a pure and a clean water. So that's the answer, your prediction. The biggest key insight is that I want you to remember is that a neural network does not need to be manually programmed with rules. It figure out the rules by itself just by looking at those of examples. That's it. Okay. But wait, how does a single neuron actually works? Now, before we zoom out and look at the full network, let's zoom into a single neuron first. Because once you understand one neuron, everything else will be easy for you. Think about a biological neuron in your brain. It receives electrical signal, process them, and fires an output if the signal is strong enough. An artificial neuron does almost the same thing, but with numbers. Here's what happens next inside a single neuron. Just two steps. Step 1. Weighted sum. The neuron take all the input, say x1, x2, x3, and multiplies each by a weight. The weight tells you that neuron that how important are they. Then it adds a bias. Think of a bias like an intercept. It just shifts the result. So your formula becomes z equals to w1 x1 plus w2 x2 plus till b. Second part is the activation. Then we pass the result z through an activation function which gives us a final output of the neurons. Okay, now why do we look to have an activation function? Because without it, no matter how many layers you stack, the whole network is just one big linear equation. It can't learn complex patterns, so the activation function adds some non-linearity into it, and that's give you finally neural network a power. Okay, so now let's talk something about the activation functions. Okay, so number one, we have the sigmoid. This squashes any value between the range of 0 and 1. It has a super popular back in the days, but now most of them used the output layer for binary classification problem. For example, yes or no, spam or not spam, like this. Second, we have the ReLU, that is the rectified linear unit. This one is dead simple. If the value is negative, then the output is 0. If the value is positive, then keep it as it is. That's it. That's ReLU, a default choice for the hidden layer that is very fast, simple, and it avoids a nasty problem called as the vanishing gradient, which I'll explain you in a minute. Okay. Third, we have the softmax. So this one takes a bunch of score, convert them into probabilities, and then add up to 1. Okay, so you use them in the output layers when you have multiple classes like classification of images as dog, cat, and bird. Thumb rule to remember is that use ReLU in the hidden layers, Sigmoid for the binary output, and Softmax for the multiple class layer output. Okay, moving forward towards the section 2, we'll understand one neuron and then build a full network. Okay, so a neuron has three types of layer. Layer 1 is the input layer. It receives your raw data, one neuron per feature, no computational power happens here. It just take the data and pass it forward. Okay, layer 2, hidden layer. This is where the magic happen. These layer run representing your data, and that can have one hidden layer or many hidden layer. More layer generally mean more capacity to learn and have a complex pattern. Layer 3 consists of the output layer. This produces your final prediction. If you are doing binary classification, it has one neuron. If you are doing classification of 10 classes like handwriting digits from 0 to 9, it has 10 neurons. So the big picture is that you have your input on the left, one or more hidden layers in the middle, and the output you will get is in the right. Okay, so the data flow from left to right. So that's your network. So let's talk about network, actually what it make a prediction. So this is called as a forward pass. Now at each layer, three things happen. You multiply the previous layer output by a weight matrix. You add a bias vector. you apply your activation function to it, and you keep doing this layer after layer until you reach the output layer and get your final prediction that we called as y hat. Okay, so that's it. That's the maths behind the forward pass. So now let's know that we have a prediction. Now how to know that it's good or a bad? So for that we have a loss function. The loss function compares the network prediction to the actual correct answer and gives us a single number, the loss. That's how you talk about the network. There are three main types of loss: mean square loss, used for regression problem like prediction house prices. It take the difference between the prediction and the actual values and average it out. Second is the binary cross entropy. It uses your output in binary, yes, no, 0, 1, and all that. Third part is the categorical cross entropy, used for multiple class classification. Whenever you're predicting one out of so many classes, this is being used. So here's an intuition about it, that the loss function is like a score of wrongness. The higher it is, the worse the network is doing. Okay, moving forward, we have something about the back propagation. Okay, so now how the network learns about it. Okay, we have two things about it. One is the gradient descent and another one is the back propagation. So gradient descent is something we have already discussed in the last videos in the machine learning part. So this is similar to it. Okay. So here neta is the learning rate, which we know it controls that how big your step is, and too large and too short for the overshoot. So all of this gradient descent we have already discussed. It's just an algorithm that update the weights to reduce the losses. Second part is the back propagation. Okay, we'll be gonna see this in detail also, but the gradient descent tells us about how to update the weights. But how do we figure out the which direction to update in? So back propagation does this. Back propagation is simply the chain rule of calculus applied layer by layer, going backward through the network from the output all the way to the back to the input. It efficiently compute the gradient of the loss with respect to every single weight in the network. Forward pass goes left to right, backward pass goes right to left. Together we get an engine of learning. And now here's a things come that is called as vanishing gradient problem. You should know about it. When you have so many layers and you have a sigmoid or a 10H activation, the gradient get multiplied together and travel backwards. So they keep shrinking, getting smaller and smaller until the early layer become barely receivable. Okay. The full training loop goes like: step 1, initialize your weight randomly with a small value or nearly 0. Second, do a forward pass for it. Third, compute the loss for it. Fourth, do a backward pass propagation. Fifth step, update the weights using gradient descent. And sixth, repeat this 2 to 5 times for many batches and many epochs until the loss converge. Okay, last topic we have about overfitting topic will come in many of others also. We have some of the techniques which we have just discussed in the previous video, but I'll tell you once again about the dropout. We have discussed L2 regularization, which is also called as ridge regularization. Then we have the early stop, then more data. Honestly, the best fix is that you add more example that are less room for the memorization. Then the batch normalization, where we normalize the input layer of each of them. Okay, so now wrapping up with this, we have some of the good key takeaways. A neural network is a layer of neurons. Each does a weight sum plus of an activation function. Second, weight and bias are the only thing of a neural network that it has to learn. Everything else is the architecture. Third, forward pass makes a prediction. Loss measures how much wrong it is. Then we have back propagation that computes gradient descents update the weight. Then we have ReLU in hidden layers. Sigmoid and softmax are as the output. We've also seen about the overfitting. One more thing that you have to remember is that one epochs equals to one full data pass. Use mini batches for efficient training. These will be covering in the training part, in the coding part. Okay, thank you from my side.